Hi there, welcome. Thanks for joining me today. I have a flip through of a tiny little journal that I recently completed, and they often end up with a name, and this little journal just kept getting called either the Little Green Christmas Book or the Little Book of Christmas. And it was published in 1876, so it's really old. It I think it ended up becoming a perfect little Christmas book, even though that's not what it originally was. It originally was a book intended to teach children biblical principles. And it is now a book that's just dedicated to a pretty old-fashioned Christmas theme. Not any one in particular, but just little old-fashioned things like the little girl on the cover holding a bouquet of holly and a little bit of gold around the edge. There was gold. I thought that kind of looked like a snowflake on the spine, which was in really nice condition. But the title and the publisher's names were here, and I wanted them covered up. So this was actually a postage stamp, and it's got Mary and Jesus on it now. And then down here, I put 1876, so that we have the year that it originally arrived on there. And it's just a beautiful little book with the embossing on the front and the back. The front has black ink in the embossing. And from 1876, you're going to see there's some stains, there's scuffs, there's a little wear and tear on this little lady, but she's earned it all and more, and I think she still looks beautiful. I particularly fell in love with her because she's got beveled edges, which you don't see very often on books. And I wanted a really messy look, as I usually do. I just love a messy look junk journal, and that looks like it's had a little head start for you for putting in those special little scraps and memorabilia. And maybe this someday can become a book for you to write in Christmas recipes or little Christmas memories or favorite Christmas scriptures. Because even though I kind of went to town on this, I left lots of room for you to write. There are a lot of blank pages in this journal. So I'm going to put this aside for now, and let's open it up. And first of all, you're going to see that it's a hidden hollow back spine. The spine, as I said, was still in very nice condition, and as were the papers. It wasn't in too bad of shape. And please don't be afraid if you're new here. It's not a precious book. It can be found on eBay, and it's not a first edition or anything like that. So fear not. It was just a book that nobody wanted anymore, and it was on a shelf at a thrift store at some point where I found it. What I've done here, so that in case you want to add more things to it, is I've made a clip closure for this little book in case it gets a little bit alligatory, and you can adjust that because it's just got a bow on the sari silk here. So that's adjustable, or even just completely removable. Talk about removable. I'm going to move this lace. Now, let's see how big she is for this tiny little lady. She's small but mighty. She's about not quite 3 3/4 inches by 5.5 inches, and she is just a little over 1 inch. The spine is about 1 inch thick. And she has, how many pages did I count out that she had? I wrote them down. She has 138 pages of varying sizes. So I think I can come in a little closer so that you can see a little better. And if you follow me on a daily basis, a lot of these things are going to be quite familiar to you. But let's go over them again. The original title was behind here, Line Upon Line, and I, of course, wanted to change it into a Christmas book. And I made very good use of some scrapbook paper that I was very generously given quite a few years ago, and I put it to good use. So when you open it up inside, here's the scrapbook paper. It almost looks like wallpaper. And I just love, it says, "May your Christmas be bright and happy." And I saved the publication date, 1876, right there, so that you'll know the original date and that it's legitimately a really old book. But it's also a tuck spot, and you can write on the back of that little journaling card. I wanted just something interesting for the... Sorry about that. There was someone at the door and my alarm went off, as you heard. Anyhow, I wanted the front to be a little unusual and eye-catching. So, and when you turn the page, this really is one of the opening pages that was from the original text block. I didn't use a whole lot of the original text block. It wasn't, although the paper was still in really good condition, it just didn't lend itself to being a Christmas book. But I did want the original title somewhere there just for the sake of the book and to sort of pay it homage. But I got into my Christmas books that I have, and I was fussy cutting, and I like how that turned out, and did a little stamping in the corner that peeks out when you just open the book. And then plenty of room here for journaling and more room. I had to Frankenstein some paper for a bigger book, and I had leftovers, so it got put into the little green book. And a little collaging here and using up some more of that scrap paper. All of this work, I was able to get one sheet of scrap paper. So it was fantastic. It worked out perfectly. And then there's just a little bulb pin with red, white, and green buttons on it. And again, lots of room for journaling. This is from the original book. Another extra piece of scrapbook paper. It was so strange for me to be working with scrapbook paper. I don't do it very often. Tea-dyed it myself. This is some, I believe it's called grass paper. And this is a vintage little Christmas tag that I'm sure would get taped onto a present. I can't imagine a card that small getting put through the mail. It must be for a present. But it's genuine vintage. And you'll notice that most of these pages not only are rough-edged, I actually hand tore them. I didn't use my deckle-edged ruler. I tore them by hand. I really wanted an unusual profile to this book, and I really like how it turned out. So there's a little space here to tuck things. So let's put you in there. There. You can go home where you belong. And I have a little bit of Tim Hortons things, and I thought it's about time I start using it up. I bought it for a reason, but I always tend to head back to my books and start fussy cutting. Here's a little bit more. Did I say Tim Hortons? Tim Holtz? You just can't get rid of the Canadian in me. There's some more of the Tim Holtz, and this is from a book, and I believe this is also from scrapbook paper. And this is a copy of a 1926 photo of two children playing in the snow. And it was originally from a family that's up in Campbellford, Ontario. So that's not too far away from where I live. We've gone camping in Campbellford. It's a pretty little town. And then another original page out of the book. And here I've made one of my favorite things to make, a faux carte de visite. And you can pull her out there. And if you want to turn her into a journaling card, you can glue some paper onto the back and make her into a journaling card. Or you can put something else in there. She doesn't have to go in there. And then I just thought I need to Christmas her up a bit, so I added some holly to her. And I like how that turned out. See what I mean? For a little book, there was still lots of room for journaling. In this spread here, I was still able, even though I used it up, I was able to make some journaling cards so the back can be written on, and I did a bit of stenciling. And if you look at the printing on it, you'll see that it actually is pages from A Christmas Carol. So that makes it kind of cool. And this is the music for O Holy Night. Here's just half of a Christmas card. I only liked the picture, so I did my rough tearing again and inked the edges. So there's journaling here, but you could also journal on the back of that without problem. A rusted paper clip with some tea-dyed lace up here. And lots of room for, this is faux cellophane tape. Lots of room here for you to fill this book and make it your own. And these are purposefully in slightly askew. I just think it makes for interesting page turns. Another original page out of the book. Quite often, old books like this, the back few pages will be pages that are advertising other books that you might want to purchase from the same publisher. So I made use of those pages. And then here is a little tuck spot that also has a bit of lace and a little red button that I sewed by hand onto it. And this paper I was given in some happy mail from Your Creative Studio. And then same thing on this side, some more paper from Your Creative Studio that they generously sent to me. And I turned this side also into a tuck spot, and there's some little English robins. And this is also from the scrapbook paper, the Christmas scrapbook paper. And you'll see I hand sewed it. I purposefully hand sewed it messy so that it looks like maybe someone younger was making themselves a Christmas book. And here's another of those children from Campbellford. And even the paper that I've backed these pictures onto is paper from the original text block. So that paper is from 1876. But I did write 1926 down in the corner there, so that you know how old the photo is. And this again is from that series, because if it looks familiar, it matches up here. And then this is one of my favorite spreads to put into the center of a journal, is from a guest book with a quill and a bottle of ink. And this is just a little cutout, fussy cut from a book that I have on Canadian Christmases from Victorian times. They were very different from the British ones. We were having it a little rougher over here in 1876. We had only been a country for, well, we became Canada in 1867, so not very long. And then there's a little pocket here with some see-through paper that was actually from my birthday flowers that my daughter brought me. And I added some holly here. And this is another little tag from that Tim Holtz collection. But I age it a bit. I'm not one to put pure white things into a book that you want it to look nice and old. And then a little more collaging here with a stamp and some just little things. More odd-shaped little pages there, and a little ruffled tab here with another little tag there. Now this is a journaling board, and if you're new to my channel and you haven't seen one of my books yet that I put a journaling board in, what this is for is if you're writing on a page, you can put it behind the page and it gives you a firm surface for writing on, so makes it a little bit easier. So what I've done with this one is one side has, it's from a book, and it's got a stained glass window with the Holy Family and the wise men visiting. But if you flip it over, the lace is different. There's a little pin with a little bauble here, and some ribbon, and then there's a sketch of bringing home the Christmas tree. So you can turn it whichever way you like for whichever side you prefer to look at. And this side just has a little tag, number tag of the number 25 on it for Christmas Day. And again, lots of room. This is an original page out of the text block. And lots of room for journaling on. This was a little scripture out of the text block, so I put it back into the book too. And this is a little vintage Christmas card. I've left it complete, but if you want to create extra journaling space, you can run an X-Acto blade across the top there and open that up, and that will give you 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 pages to journal in. Or else if you want more, maybe you want pockets, you can run a bead of glue down along the bottom there, and that will give you 2 really roomy pockets to put things in. Or you could do one on one side and one on the other. And over here is another tuck spot, so I'm going to have to find something to tuck in there because I don't like empty tuck spots. Hold on while I find something to put in there. There we go. Here I've got a recipe for Aunt Shirley's shortbread, and if you're wondering who Aunt Shirley is, she's my aunt. And I loved her a lot. She was my mom's little sister. And in the family, she was known as B because she was the baby of the family. So the family called her B. And we now have another B in our family. One of my granddaughters is known as B. It's a really good recipe. It's the one we still make every year. And it's so easy to make because you just pat it into pie plates and you crack it up when you're done. And a chunk of it with a cup of tea is so good. So I have the original one. That's not the original recipe card, but you can journal on the back. And then this is just from a book I have on Victorian baking, so I thought that was rather appropriate to put with Aunt Shirley's shortbread. And of course it's a Sunnyside journal, so it needs to have a Two Nanas bookmark in it. So I used some of that wonderful wrapping paper that my daughter saved for me from her Christmas last year. And then here again, it's one of the few times of year I use scans, but this was out of my great-grandmother's Bible, so I scanned it and made it into a journaling space. And the Victorians did that in their Christmas books. They didn't necessarily, things that they adorned into Christmas things didn't necessarily have to do with Christmas the way we think everything has to have candy canes or be red and green and have poinsettias. They would use roses and children's heads in flaming plum puddings, and poinsettias didn't become popular until later. It was mostly roses that they adorned Christmas cards and illustrations with for Christmas time. And this is a little, I had to make this page a bit longer, so I sewed on a faux Victorian postcard that I cut out of a one of my books. So I have a book on Victorian Christmas. So I cut that out and I backed it onto an old postcard to make it look like it once must have looked. And then I sewed around the edge, and I like how that turned out. And then on this side, I left part of it open so that it's a tuck spot. And this is from a book I have on Victorian games that had to do with Santa. And if you look really closely, you'll see that this actually was the back of the original front page, because you can see line upon line backwards there. It's on the other side of that page. So that's in there. A little bit of stamping down there. And again, tons of journaling room. And I did a bit more fussy cutting and some of my creative gluing in so that you can tuck things in there. I like how that turned out. And more room for journaling. A little bit of fussy cutting there from out of a book. And a little bit of stamping there. And then on the back here is another tuck spot. Oh, I can't believe I left that one empty too. I'm going to have to find, I'll tuck some tea-dyed paper in there for when it goes to its new home. And then here is my little label that I always put in with my signature, and it says 2023. So that's the little book of Christmas, or the little green Christmas book. And like I said, you can close it up just by clipping the little bulldog clip onto there. And if you find it's fatter because you put some things in, just untie this little bow here and give yourself a little extra room, and you'll find that it'll do that easily. Well, thanks for joining me for this little flip through. This is going to go up in my Etsy shop very soon. I'm not quite sure when. I still have to set up the page for it. So I'll be writing it down in the comments down below. If you look down below, you'll see what day and time. If you're interested in maybe making this little Christmas journal your own. We're cutting it kind of close delivery-wise, so I'm not sure if you're hoping for this to arrive by Christmas Day. Once I've dropped it off at the post office, it's out of my hands. So we can always cross our fingers and hope that Santa comes through. So take care, and we'll talk soon. Thanks for joining me. Bye.